Now to this evening's lecture. Our speaker today, Bharat Goenka, terms himself a social hermit for whom programming was just a hobby, but for whom resilience comes naturally. He is credited with turning a mishap that could have potentially been a big downturn at the beginning of his entrepreneurial journey into Tally, which has now reached 2 million users globally. A quality perhaps that he no doubt imbibed from his time at Cottons. What else would explain him failing history in the 7th standard but topping it in the 10th? One also hears that Bharat is notorious for not attending classes in his 3rd year of college at National College, Bengaluru. Urban legend has it that he is yet to collect his BSc degree in spite of all of these years. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy hearing from the man himself about him and his and Tally's rather inspirational journey. Bharat will first deliver his lecture, following which our managing trustee Romil will be in conversation with him. We will be taking questions. Those of you watching online, please send us your questions in the chat box and we will try and do our level best to keep you in the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Tally story.
Thank you, Lokesh. And thank you, Professor Christopher. Although you did put a lot of pressure on me to try and make this useful to people. I have to start by stating that I am feeling both inadequate and undeserving to be speaking on this platform. When you see the names of people who have delivered a KST lecture before, and the names of people who are going to deliver a KST lecture in the future, I don't think I should be the one who should be counted among them. So I am feeling especially privileged to be standing here. And thank everyone for giving me this opportunity and giving me this honor. "40 years is a long time. It's been 40 years since one has left school. And to try and compress 40 years of life into 30 or 40 minutes of explaining it will never do justice. So for the last few days, I've been trying to think through what can make it worthwhile to spend 30, 40 minutes on. And I will not pick the most important moments of life, but I will pick few things which were really durable in the entire journey. Right? And many things have shaped it. Of course, for example, just being in school shaped it. And I want to pick up from what Lokesh said, that in the 7th standard, I got 27 out of 100 in history in the 2nd term. And in the same term, I got 100 out of 100 in math. The easiest lesson to take from that, for me, had been that, I'm good at math, history sucks. Yeah. And that was the easiest thing, and that was also the first rebellious thought which came into my mind, that, fine, I'm not good at history, how does it matter? The life-changing moment which happened for me had been confronting the reality that I know how much I knew about math, and was 100 on 100 deserving of what I knew. Sorry. Was 100 on 100 deserving of what I knew? And the reality was no, because I did not know 100% of math, or 100% of even that portion of math for which I got 100. It was just incidental that some of the questions which came were which I knew. And it was incidental that the teacher who marked me was lenient enough to allow me 100. And on the opposite side, I had 27 on 100 on history. And it's not that I didn't know anything about history. I knew reasonably well, but it was incidental that the specific questions which came in the history paper were not something which were areas which I was not completely familiar with. What really started happening with me were two major things which came, which has helped me through in life. The first was to stop accepting someone else's judgment about me. So I stopped becoming thrilled about getting 100 on 100 because that was a judgment my math teacher had about me. I stopped feeling bad about 27 on 100 because that was a judgment my history teacher had about me. It started becoming that, do I know how to judge myself? And if I don't, then there's a problem. And literally from then onwards, I never studied for exams. I studied because I started enjoying learning. The second thing which happened was understanding what got me to perform poorly. So it's apart from the stark contrast of 27 on 100 and 100 on 100, the reality was I knew I had not done well. And I knew my reason for not doing well. And the reason was I used to be good at being able to do things by analysis, and I had a really horrible memory. So my capacity to learn things which cannot be analyzed was very low. And that struck deeply home, that there are various methods of learning, and I just seem to be poor at some of them. And that's not good. So the journey which started was trying to understand how do you become skilled at the various methods of learning. Rote is also a method of learning. It helps you sharpen your memory, and it's very important. Yeah? Analysis is a method of learning. Inference is a method of learning. There are some 7, 8 fundamental methods of learning which, if you become skilled at, you can learn anything you want in life, forever in life, because life is a journey of learning. So those foundations were laid in the school. And it was just because Lokesh brought it up, it was something which I wanted to share with you all. But the two important things which I really wanted to share, and which will connect back to what you will call the Tally story. And I must restate why I feel inadequate and undeserving. I am the face of Tally. As in the country, I am known because of Tally. Tally, as a company, has been there for 34 years. The first 16 years, it was run by my father, and I used to be the programmer. Then, after my father passed away, I ran the company for almost a decade. And since then, the company is being run by my son and my daughter who's sitting here. The company did achieve some brilliant things in the first 16 years. I almost drove the company into bankruptcy during the time that I was managing it, to the point that my wife Sheila, she extracted us out of the bankruptcy. And then from the time that the children have been running it, it's been doing brilliantly well. Right, so it is just incidental that I get credited for Tally as a company. But yet, the reality is I have been an integral part of it, so I can share its journey rather than claim to be responsible for its journey. So a few things about the company Tally, really. It's a company which is known as a software product company. At its heart, actually, it is what we call a technology company, because we we do a lot of low-level systems programming, which are traditionally not done in what you will call software product companies. And the product is an incidental outcome of this work that we do. But even deeper behind it, it's a company which is built on philosophies, on some values and principles and philosophies which existed before the company came into existence and has survived for these 34 years, and we continue to build on them, which is what I would be wanting to really share. In fact, we used to take and continue to take frequent lectures inside our own company on the philosophies. In one of those lectures, a senior gentleman got up and said, you know, all this philosophy is very nice, but that's a luxury you can afford when you don't have to worry about sending your children to school and paying for their fees and feeding your family. Right? So it's nice to hear about the philosophy. I wanted to put some things in context, so I will give a preamble statement. And the purpose of the preamble is not to state some glory. The purpose of the preamble is to state that when you think in terms of philosophy and values, there are no boundaries. So another small thing which Lokesh mentioned was that in the third year of BSc, I hardly attended college. And yes, I did attend 4 days of college. And I was almost denied sitting for the exam. And I literally just managed to get a passing grade. And the reason for that was that I had already joined my father in business. We used to have a small factory. It was a wood-based factory. And as a normal small-scale industry of those days, and even today, we were what you would call a sick industry. We were deeply in debt. As a family, so as a business, we owed money to the banks and others. And as a family, we owed money to literally every person that we knew, literally. I mean, the only reason that we would know someone is because we owed money to that person. There was no other reason for even having a relationship with that guy. But the great thing was that despite having nothing to be optimistic about, we were an amazingly optimistic family. We always believed that the turn is just going to happen, that the turnaround is just going to happen. And in those days, at some point, I started getting into programming. We got a couple of jobs. I got my first paying job from Canara Bank for doing some interest calculation work for them. We delivered it to them. They asked us to send them a bill. We sent them a bill of 5,000 rupees. And the manager called my father and said, you have sent a bill of 5,000. That is, you can't do that. You have to send me a bill of at least 50,000. And for us, even changing the bill from 5,000 to 6,000 would have meant a lot. And the reason why it would have meant a lot is because in those days, we were not even paying salaries. We were not having enough money to pay salaries to our people. And the response which my father gave was that, but it is not worth 50,000. I can't raise a bill of 50,000 on you. Because he has only put in 8 days of effort. There's no way that I can charge you give you a bill of 50,000. A similar episode happened almost 4 months later. We got another job from Vaisya Bank. And they were getting into share trading and they wanted us to do something for them. And we wanted to do something really different for them. I just say, ki hatke karna hai. And one spent, I think, over a period of 2 months, I must have spent at least 30 nights in Vaisya Bank's office, sometimes sleeping on their meeting room tables. At the end of 2 months, we had not been able to deliver. And when we started the contract, we had taken an advance from them for about 30,000. At the end of 2 months, they were in a hurry. We couldn't complete the job. And the GM who was in charge at that time and the DGM who was in charge at that time, they both felt so bad about canceling the contract because they had seen the amount of effort that has gone into it. But they felt even worse when the next day morning, I went there to hand over the check back to them, for which we had to borrow money to give it to them. And they said, but this is not something that you need to give us back. We have only cancelled the contract. So we are not going to pay you the rest of the money, but the advance is yours to keep because you have put in the effort. But there was a basic underlying philosophy that had driven the family and continues to drive it till today. Business is not about money. Business is about exchanging what father would use to call energies with each other. So his line always used to be that if what I have done for you has not been good for you or not been useful for you, then what you have given me cannot be good for me or useful to me. So I can't keep your money. Your money will do something bad for me. Because I gave you something and you gave me money. And what I gave you didn't work for you. Your money can't work for me. And what I need is money which will work for me. Okay? These philosophies have lived with us for these decades. I was sharing with Romil when I was speaking to him that in our journey of Tally, by the grace of the Almighty, we achieved some successes. We've got a very strong and loyal user base. And many, many times in this journey, it has happened that some event would have taken place in the country. For example, when the tax regime changed to VAT, and then the tax regime changed again to GST. And very recently, when it changed to GST, at that time, we had approximately 1 million users. And not a single customer would have grudged paying 2,000 or 3,000 rupees to us for giving them a GST-ready Tally. Essentially, it was time to reap the benefits of your customer base. We would have picked up 200, 300 crores from the market literally overnight. But this fundamental philosophy has been that people should never need to pay you because they have to pay you. They should need to pay you because they want to pay you. They would have had no option if we had said that GST-ready Tally is 3,000 rupees more. They would have had no option. That's not the right way to get money from your customer. The right way to get money from your customer is when they do have an option of not paying you and buying something else. Then they are your customer. Else they are your prisoner. How this has helped really over these years is we have seen that people are happy to watch Tally grow. My customers are happy to watch us grow. My business partners are happy to watch us grow. My suppliers are happy to watch us grow. My bankers are happy to watch us grow. The government is happy to watch us grow because another philosophy which my father had was, we should become one of the largest taxpayers of the country. That's what you would call becoming big. So that was another statement which one learned from father. He said that hard work does not make anyone successful. Everyone does hard work. You go to the farms, you go to the railway station, and you'll find the coolies doing hard work. Everyone does hard work. He said you grow on what in Hindi we would call the ashirwad of people, that people want you to grow. people think well of you. And the statement that he always made was, ask yourself, why should anyone first even think of you? Second, if they do think of you, why should they think well of you? What have you done? What have you done for them? What have you done for anyone which will make anyone think well of you? So it is fundamentally about building for yourself your reputation as a company, as an individual, where people would want to think well of you. And to paraphrase something that Dr. Christopher said, and yet in a slightly different context, it is a combination of being extremely selfish, yet extremely sacrificial. So when I'm using this term extremely selfish, it was not about not returning the money to Vysya Bank because we could not afford it. Right? Because we could not afford it. We had to borrow in order to return the money. But the question to ask was, can we afford not to return it? Can we morally afford not to return it? Can we afford not to return it and therefore lose the well wishes of those people? And the reality was that canceling the contract, I said, did hurt them because they saw us working hard, but it was okay. I mean, we were a supplier and we didn't do our work. But after we returned the money, those people were friends with us for years together, and they always wished well for us. Perhaps that wouldn't have happened if we had not returned the money. It would have been just another cancelled contract, big deal. And one can share a large number of such episodes through life, through the journey of Tally and through the journey of my father before that, where you stay firm on this fundamental philosophy that life is about exchanging energies, and are you exchanging the right energy? And if you are, at some point or the other, it will culminate well for you. The other thing I would just like to share, I don't know how I'm doing for time, was on the subject of learning. When you are as bald as I am, you have obviously spent enough years of life learning. But an important aspect of learning, and particularly from an entrepreneurial perspective, had been about how do we learn the wrong things. See, learning is not about learning the right things. Learning is about learning. Right? It's incidental that sometimes we learn the right things and sometimes we learn the wrong things. And again, I was very fortunate in my early days of this learning process of sometimes recognizing when I'm learning the wrong thing. So in the entrepreneurial journey, we all tend to take decisions. It's not just an entrepreneurial journey, in any journey of life, right? We all tend to take decisions. A short while ago, I was talking to Romil's daughter, and she's at the cusp of a decision on what to take for her future upcoming exams and upcoming courses in college, etc. Yeah, so we all face this dilemma of decisions. And we are all taught, that you have to be careful about your decisions because your decisions decide the future. And the reality is it doesn't. The reality is it doesn't. The reality is the future is unknown. And the beauty of life is that the future is unknown. Because if the future was known, life would not be interesting. It's like going and watching a movie after someone has completely told you the story about it, and particularly going to a mystery movie after someone has told you the story. I mean, what's the fun of going to the movie? Okay? The whole beauty of life is that the future is unknown. And yet, we spend such an enormous amount of time trying to predict it or control it rather than embrace it. And then we learn the wrong lessons. Because occasionally, so you take a decision on any aspect at a given moment in time with a given anticipation. It's not a prediction, it's an anticipation. And sometimes what you anticipated turns out right, sometimes it turns out better than what you anticipated, and sometimes worse than what you anticipated. And whenever it turns out worse, the wrong lesson that you learn is, you know what, I should be more careful in my decisions. I took a hasty decision. I did not study the decision enough. And with passage of time, people just slow down their decision taking. They slow down their risk taking. The worst thing that an entrepreneur can do is reduce that capacity for risk. But that's what happens. That's the wrong lessons that we learn. So we don't learn the lesson that despite whatever you do, the future remains unknown. You don't learn that as the lesson. The lesson you learn is, oh, I did not study enough. Oh, was not careful enough. I should be more circumspect. I should be, you just learn the wrong lessons. And because the future is unknown, we come back to the right lessons is A, the future is unknown. B, you took a decision in a given moment in time and a given circumstance. Now circumstances have changed. Some caused by events in your company, some caused by events outside. Right now we are all sitting in with our masks on with events which are not caused by any one of us. Yet, but we are in that circumstance. And in the new circumstance, you take a new decision, and then the circumstance changes again, and you take yet another decision. You never slow down your capacity to take decisions. It's one of the things which I have tried to imbibe in both the children. And one of the reasons why I think they are doing so brilliantly well in the company is their ability to cope with this reality that decisions just need to be taken. And after that, you just need to work to try and make the decision right. The decision is never right or wrong. The decision is just a decision. It is after the decision is taken, what is the work that you do to make it right? Again, when she's going to college, she'll take a decision to take some courses, right? And there's no such thing as a right course or wrong course. It is now that I've decided to take these 2 courses or 5 courses, what am I going to do to make that right? Okay. And I think that changes. It changes the way your perspective of life. It changes the way you deal with it. And these are the two big things which have really, I thought I would like to share in this long journey of life. And of course, the early part of life in Cottons and how it laid that particular foundation which allowed me to get into this area. Thank you. Thank you so much for having the patience to hear me out.